Is it not uncommon to say not uncommon? Or is it uncommon to say not uncommon and more common to say common? Hey everyone, Dana here. I've noticed something and now I simply can't unsee it anymore. I'm sure we've all experienced something like this at one point or another. You notice something that when you take a step back and you really think about it, you realize that you probably saw or heard or experienced this thing, if not many, at least several times before. Like you probably did, but somehow you just never took notice of it. But once you do take notice of it, then you start to see, hear, and experience that thing seemingly everywhere. Let me know an example of this kind of thing in your life down in the comments. But yeah, something like this just happened to me recently with a really interesting German expression. And yes, there is also a German version of this video. Link to that down in the description box below. Okay, so what happened? I was sitting there consuming content in German the other day, as I really like to do nowadays. I like to listen to podcasts and watch videos in German. And I was sitting there just kind of listening and enjoying and listening and enjoying and just kind of letting what was being said float into my head, and everything was going totally smoothly and it was very relaxing until the speaker said something that just stopped everything in its tracks. And I just had to like sit there for a second and be like, wait, what? And process, like, what does that mean? Okay, I get it. The phrase in question here, nicht selten. Nicht selten? Nicht selten. Nicht selten. So it literally took several seconds of active thinking on my part for me to successfully comprehend the meaning of this kind of like double negative nicht selten. So nicht means not and selten means rarely or seldom, making nicht selten literally not rarely or not seldomly. A few examples. Es passiert nicht selten, dass ich Videos drehe. Ich esse nicht selten Äpfel in Deutschland. Nicht selten bin ich zu einer Geburtstagsparty in Deutschland gegangen, wo ich so sehr Geburtstagskuchen vermisst habe. Schreibt mir sehr gerne eure nicht selten Beispiele in den Kommentaren. I have another one actually. Since recently noticing the phrase nicht selten, habe ich diesen Ausdruck nicht selten gehört. So since I first noticed it, I've now heard it a bunch recently. And now the phrase does make total sense to me. But after hearing this phrase for the very first time, once I understood what it meant, I sat there for several minutes and I like really thought about it, and I really tried my darndest to fit it word for word into English without immediate success. If someone were to say to me, for example, it does not rarely happen that I go to the store. It does not rarely happen. It does not rarely happen that I go to the store. It does not rarely happen that I go to, I don't know, I'm so confused. Like the more I say it over and over again, the more confused I might become. I don't know. I guess maybe I would think the person is trying to say that they don't even rarely go to the store. Like they never go. Like it's less than rarely, they just never go to the store. Maybe, but if somebody said like, it does not rarely happen. It does not rarely happen. It would not be my first instinct to think that perhaps that means that it happens quite often. Because if someone wanted to say that something happens quite often, then in English, you would just say that. I've noticed that the apples are usually bigger in the US than in Germany. Living here in Germany, I often miss birthday cake. I usually enjoy ice in my drinks, but since moving to Germany, I have started consuming and even enjoying drinks without ice more often than before. So with a positive formulation rather than that kind of double negative of nicht selten. The only English formulation for this in this direction that has come to my mind as of now is not uncommon. So one could say in German, es ist nicht selten, Äpfel hier zu finden, which you could say in English, it's not uncommon to find apples here. But while I know there are some situations where not uncommon is exactly what you want to say and that's exactly what you want to get across, I just feel like for me, I think I usually lean towards common and usually. So in this case, it's common to find apples here, or you can usually find apples here, rather than the double negative of it's not uncommon. But that actually brings me to my next question. Are not uncommon and common or usually actually the same thing? Do they actually mean the same thing? And what does nicht, selten actually mean anyway? If someone says it's not uncommon for them to go to the store, that makes total sense to me. But when I sit back and really think about it and analyze it, I realize that I still wouldn't be totally sure what they mean if they say that. So does it mean that they often go to the store? Or, is it just not uncommon for them to go to the store? So is it just that it's a little bit more often than rarely? On this scale here, where is not uncommon? Is it here? Or is it here? And what about nicht selten in German? Does nicht selten actually mean oft? Or does it just mean a little bit more often than rarely? Where is nicht selten on this scale? Please let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments. Either way, I would say that in English, I usually say what I usually do or what's often the case rather than what's not uncommon. And I certainly don't think that I hear the phrasing not uncommon as much in English as I have now started noticing nicht selten in German. But maybe now that I have said it's uncommon for me to notice not uncommon in English, maybe now I will suddenly start hearing and seeing it more often. And just like that, it'll actually become not uncommon for me to hear not uncommon. But for now, it's still more uncommon to me. So my question for you is, do you find that it's not uncommon to use not uncommon or nicht selten? Please let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. For more content from me, you can follow me over on my Instagram @wantedadventure. I usually do my Instagram stories in German with little English subtitles. And speaking of German, I also made a German language version of this video. Link to that down in the description box below. And a really, really, really big thank you so much to our patrons on Patreon who help make these videos possible. Thank you so, so, so very much for your support. Until next time, auf Wiedersehen.